You have your Jaar Majrur, okay, which is also referred to as a Ẓarf. Like we mentioned, sometimes the Mufassirun and the Nuhat, they refer to Jaar Majrur as a Ẓarf. Is of two types. They say it's a Ẓarf Mustaqarr. This is one method or one type of Jaar Majrur. Or it is a Ẓarf Laghw. From our previous explanation, you understood that a Jaar Majrur needs to come after a verb. Why? Because the whole reason it was coined is to allow a verb to reach an ism. So it's coming after a verb, entering upon an ism. That's how it enables for the verb to reach its ism which it wants to affect in terms of meaning. All right. And you've also learned previously that sometimes the verb that's being brought is hidden and sometimes it's mentioned explicitly. Today you'll understand this concept bi'idhnillah in more detail and with more clarity. Ẓarf Mustaqarr, the Nuhat, they tell us, is that Jaar Majrur ma muta'allaquhu am ay al-kawnu al-mutlaq. What is Ẓarf Mustaqarr? Ẓarf Mustaqarr is a Jaar Majrur where the verb or the ism that's governing like a verb, which that Jaar Majrur is connecting to, it has a general meaning. A general meaning over here means that it simply comes in the meaning of existence. It simply comes in the meaning of existence. So let's take an example. When you say, for instance, Zaydun fid dar. Over here, every student of Arabic will tell you that Zaydun fid dar is really Zaydun thabitun fid dar. And they're going to tell you that the Jaar Majrur connects to thabit. Zaydun fid dar ay Zaydun thabitun fid dar. What does thabit mean? It simply means that he's existing in the house. But obviously, because that's so obvious, you don't mention it. And it's so general that when you say Zayd is in the house, it's already understood that he is existing in the house. Right? You can say thabitun, you can say mustaqirrun, also means to exist. You can say ka'inun, take it from a fi'al tam, which also means to exist. Zaydun mawjudun fid dar. All of these are fine. The point over here is that the meaning of each and every single one of these words I've mentioned to you, all right, even if you were to use the fi'al version, right, Zaydun thabata fid dar, Zaydun istaqarra fid dar, etc., etc., the meaning of all these verbs is mere existence. Okay, not anything beyond existence, just existence. Zayd is existing within the house. And because it's so prevalent, you would not mention it. And that's why they actually mention over here that from the ahkam of Ẓarf Mustaqarr is that يجب حذف متعلق. You're not actually allowed to mention that verb or that ism which is in the meaning of existence. So you're not actually allowed to say Zaydun thabitun fid dar. You actually have to omit it. Why? Because it's so prevalent, it's so obvious. The Arabs say you shouldn't be mentioning it at all. Zaydun thabitun fid dar would actually be incorrect. You'd have to say Zaydun fid dar. You're not allowed to mention the muta'allaq. Again, muta'allaq is a Jaar Majrur because it's connecting to either the fi'l or the ism that's governing like a fi'l. So that fi'l or ism that's governing like a fi'l is referred to as muta'allaq. Alright? So when you say muta'allaq, just keep in mind it's referring to either the fi'l or the ism that's governing like a fi'l. So in Zaydun thabitun fid dar, because thabit is in the meaning of al-kawn al-mutlaq, just existence, mere existence. Over there, you're not even allowed to mention the word thabit. Then you have a Ẓarf Laghw. What is a Ẓarf Laghw? A Ẓarf Laghw is the opposite, or not the opposite per se, but in a Ẓarf Laghw, the Jaar Majrur is connecting to something specific. Ma muta'allaquhu khas. What do we mean by specific? Meaning beyond mere existence, it has another meaning as well. So it's not just Zayd is in the house, Zayd is eating within the house. Zayd is sitting within the house. Zayd is, for instance, running within the house. Now notice how all of these words I've mentioned before you, beyond mere existence, they have a further meaning. And for that reason, you cannot say, for instance, Zaydun fid dar. You're not allowed to say Zaydun fid dar and intend Zaydun akilun fid dar. Okay, because beyond existence, over here the meaning of eating is also found. So when the muta'allaq is khas, the Jaar Majrur will be referred to as a Ẓarf Laghw. Alright, and this is prevalent in any example where the Jaar Majrur is directly connecting to a verb, the meaning of which is khas. Okay, what does khas mean? Khas over here means that beyond kaun mutlaq, beyond mere existence, there's an additional meaning of eating, helping, drinking, standing, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so for example, marartu bi Zaid. I passed by Zaid. This bi Zaid over here is connecting to marartu, and bi Zaid in this scenario is a Ẓarf Laghw. Why is it a Ẓarf Laghw? Because the muta'allaq, that word which is connecting to, is not just mere existence. Marra means to pass by something. There's something beyond mere existence. It's mere existence plus the act of passing by something. And therefore, bi Zaid, which is connecting to marartu, will be referred to as a Ẓarf Laghw. Had it been connecting to something in the meaning of mere existence, like Zaydun fid dar, then in that scenario we'd refer to fid dar as Ẓarf Mustaqarr with a fatha and the qaf. Fid dar would be called a Ẓarf Mustaqarr. And we told you that when it comes to Ẓarf Mustaqarr, you're not actually allowed to mention the muta'allaq, that word which it's connecting to. Alright, now at this point you've understood Ẓarf Mustaqarr and Ẓarf Laghw. Why do they call it Ẓarf Mustaqarr? They say لاستقرار معنى الكون فيه. Okay, what does that mean? That when you say Zaydun fid dar, the meaning of existence is found or understood from fid dar. So لاستقرار معنى الكون فيه, they call it Zaydun, they call it ظرف مستقر, أي مستقر فيه. ظرف المستقر. ظرف لغو means the meaning of kaun isn't found within it because it's directly connecting to a verb which is more specific than mere existence. Right? Beyond mere existence, it includes passing by someone. It includes eating. It includes drinking. It includes helping, etc., etc. When it comes to the ظرف لغو, right? Anytime you have a Jaar Majrur connecting to something other than al-kawn al-mutlaq, mere existence, it would be a ظرف لغو. So marartu bi Zayd, for instance, is an example of this. Right? Zaydun akilun fid dar. Zayd is eating within the house. Over here, fid dar is not a ظرف mustaqar, it's a ظرف لغو. Why? Because it's connecting to akil, and akil is a specific meaning. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Another example we covered in the beginning of our lessons. Bismillah. Right? What do we say that if we're saying it's Bismillah, we're going to assume ay Bismillahi aqra'u. Okay? Or Bismillahi abtadi'u. Or Bismillahi u'allifu, etc., etc. In all these scenarios, Bismillah, the Jaar Majrur, will not be a ظرف mustaqar, it's going to be a ظرف لغو. Why? Because it's connecting to aqra'u, and aqra'u is a specific meaning. It's not in the meaning of mere existence, it's a specific meaning beyond mere existence of reading. So we refer to Bismillah as a ظرف لغو. Now, based on this example, you might have learned something right now over here. Based on this example, you realize that even in a ظرف لغو, you're allowed to drop the muta'allaq. We said in ظرف mustaqar, you have to drop the muta'allaq, the fi'l which is connecting to, or the ism which is governing it, which is in the meaning of al-kawn al-mutlaq. You're not allowed to mention it. ثابتٌ كائن مستقر cannot be mentioned. In ظرف لغو, it's not wajib al-hath. Understand this. It's not wajib al-hath. In fact, if you don't have an indication indicating or hinting towards that word, you're not allowed to omit it at all. So for instance, if I was to say intend Zaydun akilun fid dar, and instead of saying Zaydun akilun fid dar, I went ahead and said Zaydun fid dar. Over here, what's the issue? The moment you hear Zaydun fid dar, the first thing that comes to your mind is Zaydun thabitun fid dar. But over here, that's not what I'm intending. I'm intending to say Zayd is eating in the house. Alright? So in this scenario, the reason we're not allowed to omit akilun from Zaydun fid dar is because if there's no indication towards akilun, if there's no indication that this is what's being intended, the moment you omit it, someone will mistake it for a ظرف mustaqar, and they're going to understand this in the meaning of Zaydun thabitun fid dar, even though what you're intending to inform them is that Zayd is eating in the house. So for that reason, when it comes to ظرف لغو, we say يجوز, the hukm is يجوز حذف متعلقه إذا دلت عليه قرينة. If the context is telling you that akil was intended, okay, like if everyone's eating, so we're like, where is Zayd eating? So you say Zaydun fid dar. Over there, it's possible if you know he took his food in the home, you'd realize that there it's in the meaning of Zaydun akilun fid dar. All right. Let's look at Bismillah. Over there, everyone knows when you start a book, the context tells you you're assuming Aqra'u Bismillah. When you sit down to eat together with your family, the context tells you Bismillahi na'kulu. Just the context is sufficient. So when there is context or there is an indication or a proof showing that what's being intended is a very specific verb, the meaning of reading, helping, drinking, standing, etc., over there you're allowed to omit that verb. And this is why you'll find this prevalent in the kalam of the Arabs, that they will omit the muta'allaq of a ظرف لغو. Alright, for instance, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا وَإِلَى ثَمُودَ أَخَاهُمْ صَالِحًا. وَإِلَى ثَمُودَ أَخَاهُمْ صَالِحًا أي وَإِلَى ثَمُودَ أَرْسَلْنَا أَخَاهُمْ صَالِحًا. Now, because it's clear from the context that the verb أرسلنا is intended, it was omitted. And there's nothing wrong with this because دلت عليه قرينة. Even though أرسلنا is not كون مطلق, it's a specific meaning. So إلى ثمود over here is a ظرف لغو because it's connecting to a verb which has a specific meaning. But you're allowed to omit it because there's context indicating it. Alright? So the recap of this is Jaar Majrur is also commonly referred to as a Ẓarf, and it's of two types. Either it's a Ẓarf Mustaqarr or it's a Ẓarf Laghw. What is Ẓarf Mustaqarr? Ẓarf Mustaqarr means that it's connected to something which is the general meaning of existence. Alright? Such as Zaydun fid dar, over here fid dar connects to the meaning of Thabit or Ka'in or Mustaqir, which just simply means he's existing within the house. Now because that's so evident, you would not actually mention it. And in Arabic, you're not actually allowed to mention it. يجب حذف المتعلق. Over there, you're not allowed to say زيد ثابت في الدار. You have to say زيد في الدار and drop the متعلق. Alright, and it's called ظرف مستقر لاستقرار معنى الكون فيه. That meaning of existence is found within the حرف الجر, understood from the Jaar Majrur. On the other hand, we have another type of Jaar Majrur referred to as ظرف لغو. What does ظرف لغو mean? The Jaar Majrur is connecting either to a verb or to an ism in the meaning of a verb which has a specific meaning. Now, what is specific meaning this context? It means that it has the meaning of a certain action beyond existing, such as eating, helping, drinking, standing, etc., etc. These are specific actions. And over here, you're allowed to omit. Notice you're not necessary to omit. You are allowed to omit if the muta'allaq, that which the ظرف لغو is connecting to, if there is an indication or context supporting it. Otherwise, you're not allowed to omit it. Because if you were to omit it without any indication, without any context supporting it, someone would mistaken it for a ظرف mustaqar, and they would they would understand the general meaning of existence, whereas in ظرف لغو, that's not the case. So with this, we cover our lesson, or we covered the alamat of the ism, and we've also covered a beneficial lesson in the meaning of ظرف مستقر and ظرف لغو, which you'll come across quite often in the books of Nahu and Tafsir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.